But Brandon, let's move on into our final segment. And woo, is it hot in this room? I think we're going a little loony in here, especially after that Kyler Murray conversation that we had. Before we get into everything, make sure to follow us on Twitter. I'm at Ricky Widmer. Brandon is at young_swan19. Most Valuable Podcast is at Most Valuable Pod. We're going to be looking at our top 5 for our big board and talking about someone who is not in either of our top 5s, but we were going to talk about him in the last section. But because we went so long on Kyler Murray, we're going to talk about him in this section. But Brandon, before we get into all that, take us through your 5 through number 1.
At number 5, Montez Sweat, defensive end, Mississippi State. At 4, Kyler Murray, as he should be, quarterback, Oklahoma. Number 3, Josh Allen.
As he should be.
Outside linebacker, Kentucky. Number 2, Nick Bosa, also should not be number 1, defensive end, The Ohio State. And number 1, Quinnen Williams, defensive tackle, Alabama.
Well, then going right into mine, I'm going to start off at number 5, Montez Sweathead. Boy, did he have a fucking baller combine. Defensive end out of Mississippi State. Then Devin White, the linebacker out of LSU. Then at number 3, Josh Allen, not the quarterback from the Buffalo Bills, the outside linebacker from the Kentucky Wildcats. Then at number 2, Quinnen Williams, defensive tackle, Roll Tide. And number 1, the rightful number 1 pick in my mind, Nick Bosa, or Nick, not Joey Bosa, as I usually screw their names up, defensive end, the Ohio State University. And Brandon, the one thing I do want to say is compared to our NBA mock draft, don't think I screwed up a single name today. And that deserves a pat on the back for me, because in our 16 through 25, I was adding some letters to guys' names, and you did not notice and did not correct me. And I got chewed out in the comment section for that. Bruno Fernandez, I said. You didn't catch it.
I think I said I thought, no, I caught it. I
you
thought
caught
I said
it off camera.
I thought I said Fernando at one point.
I know you caught it off camera. I said instead of Goga, I said Gorga. I screwed it up yet again. And then instead of Kobe White, I think I said Colby White. So I'm just adding letters to shit when it gets in here.
I'll be honest with you. Sometimes
I just don't listen.
No. I do listen, and sometimes I do hear it, and I'm like, even if I correct him, he's gonna say it wrong again anyway. So might as well just let him be.
There was one comment where someone said, "Are you trying to mispronounce these names on purpose?" No, I'm just an idiot and add letters to stuff.
See, here's the thing. Mm-hmm. You would continue to be right if you just don't look at the comments.
Yeah, I just move right on. But in our top 5, so we're going to talk about Montez Sweat. He is in our top 5. The one guy we're moving into this segment who we moved from segment 2 into segment 3 is Drew Lock. He's not in our top 5, but I wanted to talk about him. And we went long on Kyler Murray in the previous segment. But let's take a look at Montez Sweat, a guy who has moved up into the top 5 for the first time in both my big board and your big board. He just balled out at the combine, had a spectacular combine. I didn't even know that he had that kind of speed in him for the 40-yard dash. And I even saw something today on ESPN that I want to pull up really quick about him, is that it's a video. It's about 1 minute and 12 second video, and it says Montez Sweat has Clowney-esque upside. What are you thinking about Montez Sweat? And could he be, when we look at it, better than a Nick Bosa, better than a Rashawn Gary, better than all the pass rushers, hell, even a Josh Allen, better than all the pass rushers that we're seeing right now in this draft class?
So his 40 was impressive. 4.41.
Like DK Metcalf blew up Twitter.
That's absolutely great. And I think that even on Twitter, they had some guys saying, I want Montez Sweat to be my number 1 wide receiver. I mean, it was really quite funny, actually. But his speed, his size, his ability, his strength. I mean, this guy was recruited when he was signing with Michigan State back in 2014. He was recruited as a tight end. this is a big dude. This is a strong guy. And with what you said, with Clowney-esque potential ability to be at that level, that's absolutely incredible. And I think that one of, again, his best traits is his speed and his ability to get off the edge so quickly. I mean, talk about coming at a quarterback that a quarterback does not want to have this guy coming at you. It's going to happen a whole lot, I think, this next year. I really look for his first season in the NFL to be a very successful one. We watch for his name a lot with no matter what team that he's going to be on. But when you pair that speed with his athleticism and with his strength, with his size, it makes for a whole lot of scary. And I think that that's what's going to be most exciting as he'll be a very fun player to watch.
Well, and the thing I kind of look at is where in the top 10 is Montez Sweat going to go? Because the Cardinals, in my mind, you've got a choice between either two prospects. You either go Kyler Murray or you go Nick Bosa. Like, right now, I'll be honest, although I asked the question, could he be like the best pass rusher? I still have Nick Bosa as my top defensive end right now, so I don't think the Cardinals go with Montez Sweat. However, after that, let me ask you this. The 49ers just traded for Dee Ford.
I know.
So some would think, hey, they might have locked up their edge rusher need. Could they be a team at 2? Could we hear Montez Sweat's name called number 2? And could we see in the NFL next year, Dee Ford on one side, Montez Sweat on the other?
It'd be amazing. I mean, we'd be looking at San Francisco as, I don't want to say the Cleveland Browns of the NFC West, but I think we'd be looking at a San Francisco team that, when healthy, when all their guys could be healthy, dangerous team to be able to compete with Seattle and the Rams. Maybe not quite right away, but I certainly a team that I would compete with Seattle, would be better than Arizona, and would be making their way towards the top, especially when you just look at their defense. It's really good. When you look at their offense and you have a healthy Jerick McKinnon, I think that would be, a great thing to see, actually see him play. Now you add Tevin Coleman into the mix there at running back. And then at quarterback, why can I not think of his name? Jimmy Garoppolo.
Jimmy G, Illinois native, Arlington Heights, go get it.
When he comes back and he's fully healthy, he is going to be very fun and exciting to watch as well. And I think it's going to be for them, receiving weapons, what's going to happen there. But I know that this is about Montez Sweat, not the 49ers. But I do
hand in hand, I asked you about it.
But I do think, though, that if you have Dee Ford on one side and Montez Sweat on the other side, that is a very, very outstanding 1-2 combo there. I really hated seeing the Chiefs get rid of Dee Ford because I really like him. I think he's a very good player on the defense.
Well, I mean, I know this is more of an onside kick thing, but I know you're a Chiefs fan. I want to get your reaction really quick because I haven't asked you about it at all. Eric Berry no longer going to be a Chief either.
I know. Really unfortunate. I like Eric Berry. I think he's a really good player, has been a really good player. A great story. Wonderful that he was able to beat cancer. But it's his injuries the last couple of seasons that he's barely been on the field. I think that really hurt him, and the Chiefs were just ready to go a different direction, and certainly wish him nothing but the best. The Chiefs organization did that for sure, but sometimes that's just what happens. But Eric Berry he's a really good player.
And now it's Honey Badger time in KC.
So excited.
But getting back to Montez Sweat, the thing that I think of, and this might be a little bit of a spoiler for my mock draft on the onside kick next week, I don't think he gets out of the top 4. And the reason why I say that is because it's going to depend on, of course, you've got Quinnen Williams and Josh Allen right there. Like, you look at both of our top 5s, Quinnen Williams is there, Bosa is there, Allen is there. Montez Sweat is there. The only difference, you have Kyler Murray. I have a middle linebacker in Devin White, who I just like his leadership, is why he's in my top 5 right now. Montez Sweat, to me, if I look at the top of the draft, I don't think he goes to the Cardinals. I think that's either Nick Bosa or Kyler Murray. If Kyler Murray goes number 1, he's not going to go to the 49ers because Nick Bosa will be snatched up by the Niners quicker than you could say hotcakes. And then the next 2 teams, Jets and Raiders, what's their number 1 need? Edge rusher. The Jets is a question because do you go with an edge rusher? Do you go with an offensive lineman to help out Sam Darnold? Do you go with maybe a DJ Metcalf to help out DK Metcalf? I keep saying that too. DJ, because of I think DJ Moore, but DK Metcalf, because helping out Sam Darnold is huge as well. But then let's say the Jets don't go with an edge rusher. Who's sitting there at 4? The team that after they traded the best pass rusher in the damn league said, well, it'd be better if we had a pass rusher. So I don't think, at the least, I don't think he gets past the Raiders. But hell, even if he gets past the Raiders, who else needs a defensive end? The Buccaneers. So for me, I think with his combine, with what he showed us, Montez Sweat for me is a lock as a top 5 pick in the NFL, just based off of the top 5 teams and what they need, because all of them could go pass rusher, and then the Buccaneers, it's not really a pass rusher or edge rusher, it's mainly that defensive end. So to me, I don't see Montez Sweat falling out of the top 5 in the NFL draft.
I agree with you too. Also because just going off of Dan Mullen's comments that this guy Montez was a middle of the probably middle of the draft type of guy, and he's worked his way from middle to top because of how hard he worked to have those impressive numbers at the combine. And he said he works extremely hard and worked extremely hard to do that, and it's paying off. And now he's, possibly solidified himself as a top 5, maybe top 7 pick, and that that's no like coincidence that this happened. It's hard work, and that's coming from his head coach, Dan Mullen, at Mississippi State. So that's exciting to hear, and you always do like when you have a player who, not that he wasn't talked about, certainly we had talked about him, but and said his name, but he was more of the middle to the lower end of the top 25 big board, and now we're talking about him at top 5 at number 5, I think for both of us, and that's exciting.
Next guy I want to ask you about is a guy we're going to talk about in the 6 through 15 range. We bumped him to this range just for the conversation. Drew Lock had a good combine. People now are, his draft stock is rising on most. For me, definitely, I was kind of the same thing with as you were for DK Metcalf, where our last mock draft after our big board after the Senior Bowl, I was like, all right, I'm going to put him 16 through 25 only because I still am kind of fringy on Drew Lock. Saw his combine, saw everything he did. I do not think this kid drops below 15. If he is there for the Redskins, I think the Redskins scoop him right up and take him. What are your thoughts on Drew Lock? Is he a lock for a first round? And what team do you think he fits best with and should maybe target him in the first round?
I like him a lot. I think he's a good quarterback. He's got an incredible arm, a very strong arm. He does not miss open receivers. He anticipates well. He's a good player, and he put up really good stats at Mizzou. And definitely a guy who would be, I think, NFL ready, has the size. No one's going to question that. Obviously everyone's going to say some things about you that you want to, be better. And, one of those things is always going to be, decision making. If he just made better decisions in this situation, that situation. But that's going to be every single quarterback. Where he could fit, I'm trying to think of teams that, well, the Miami Dolphins need a quarterback. And
interesting conversation, though, because are they going to, do you think with the new head coach coming in from New England, Flores, do you think they still stick to their plan and say, nope, we're going to target Tua next year?
Do they really want to be awful again?
That the news was early on that they have said they are going to bypass a quarterback this year, target Tua in 2020.
Well, here's also part of the problem with the Dolphins. And if he were to go to the Dolphins.
Patriots. The Patriots are still there and still going to win the division.
No, it's the fact that who do the Dolphins have as weapons?
Mm-hmm.
Amendola is gone.
They just re-signed Devonta Parker to a 2-year deal.
Woo! He sucks. I'm sorry. I mean, unless he just this year has some epiphany like, wow, I should probably get better at football. He's awful. And don't draft him in fantasy. Let me tell you, if you want to lose, pick up Devontae Parker. He'll help you lose.
I feel like you picked up Devonta Parker.
No, he's just awful. Because
I thought you might have picked him up and he lost you a couple games.
No, he was one of those guys coming out of college that people are like, keep an eye on this Devontae Parker guy. He's going to be good. Bunch of lying assholes. Then they've got Kenny Stills. The running back situation, I don't know what was going on last year, but it looks like maybe it's going to be more lockdown this year now that Frank Gore is gone. It's just you're going into a situation where Miami's just not very good, and that's part of the problem. But I'm honestly trying to think right off the top of my head. I would probably have said Washington.
That's where I'm thinking.
But they're getting they have Case Keenum now with that trade that they did with the Denver Broncos, and I think that made sense to go get Keenum. But then why would you? I don't know. I guess I just feel like no, you didn't really give up. You didn't really
only got 1 year though.
You really didn't give up a whole lot to get Case Keenum. Do you bring him in? Have him try and go for this year as your starter. Bring in Locke. Have him sit behind him for a year. See how everything goes, and maybe not even the full year if Keenum does what he did in Denver last year, unfortunately. Minnesota Case Keenum, he'll be fine. He'll resurrect his career. He'll be fine. But Denver Case Keenum, he'll be no longer unseated as a quarterback by week 5.
No, and I mean, for me, I feel like the Redskins are the perfect team for Drew Lock because at 15, you've got a decision to make. Do we go for the quarterback of the future? Because obviously Case Keenum is a Band-Aid. Case Keenum is, oh no, Alex Smith probably might not play football again. Colt McCoy, same injury, might not play football again. Broke their legs. And especially Alex Smith didn't he have an infection when they were doing the surgery on his leg, which was no bueno as well. And after looking at his leg when he was at a Washington Wizard game, did not look like that guy is going to be suiting up playing football anytime soon. Do you go for that quarterback to groom behind Case Keenum? Because I believe you give Case Keenum the ball, and if you suck this year, you suck this year. Doesn't really matter. Or if there's a DK Metcalf there or a Hollywood Brown there, do you say, well, you know what? We're going to suck with Keenum anyways, or could suck with Keenum anyways. Let's get that wide receiver. So if we get the number 1 pick, we win the Tua lottery, we can slot Tua right in. Basically, with the Redskins, do you want to potentially be the Cardinals of this year, where you're not great, maybe you get the number 1 pick, but oh shoot, we drafted a quarterback last year, and now we have the position to draft Tua. Where the Cardinals, oh shoot, we drafted a quarterback last year, we have a position to now draft Kyler Murray number 1. Which, let's be honest, Jay Gruden might be on the way out after this year. It's very flaky with some people like Jay Gruden, other people are like, no, get Jay Gruden out of there. I think that Drew Lock could be a guy that, since he doesn't have to start right away, let Case Keenum have this year. Let Drew Lock kind of make the improvements that he's got to make, learn from being the backup, kind of like what Lamar was going to do before he was thrusted into the starting quarterback role. But the Redskins, to me, look like a team that could do it. Or the highest I could see Drew Lock going is the Broncos. Let's say they go, hey, I know we've got Joe Flacco, but we could draft Drew Lock, have him sit behind Joe Flacco, and kind of mold him from there. So there's that kind of thing as well. One curveball I want to throw you here at the end of the podcast.
As always.
Daniel Jones had a horrible combine. People are very low on Daniel Jones. Is there a possibility of either two things with Daniel Jones? That he either gets drafted late in the draft by like a Patriot team and becomes the heir apparent to Tom Brady, because I've seen those articles out there already. Or is there a possibility that a team trades with the Rams or the Packers, a la like the Vikings did for Teddy Bridgewater, or like the Ravens did for Lamar Jackson, to try to get a fifth option on Daniel Jones? Could he be like a pick 31, 32 when we get to the draft to get that fifth-year option?
I don't see it. I've really never been like the biggest fan of Daniel Jones. I really haven't been a Daniel Jones guy. So I think that I'd be looking at him later on in the draft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, he's definitely a round 2 guy. I know also if you had to pick the guys after Drew Lock, I know who your fourth quarterback would be. And that is Will Grier. You are a like how Dave on the Fast Break is a James Harden stan. You are a Will Grier stan. Like, you will sit in Will Grier's corner and wave the Mountaineer flag and go, woo! Yeah, Will Grier, go Will Grier. Yeah, that's Brandon. That's Brandon. Whereas most people are like, yeah, I like Drew Lock. Brandon's like, woo, go Will. Will's my boy. And then when people go, but what about quarterback number 1? You go, where's my Oklahoma flag? Yeah, go Kyler! Yeah, that is the Brandon Swanson way. But any final thoughts on anything before we wrap this thing up?
No.
This is where you guys come in. Let us know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Make sure to also hit us up on Patreon, patreon.com/MostValuablePodcast. We are actually very, very soon going to have brand new rewards. However, the one that is going to stay the same, spoiler alert, is the $10 tier. You can support us for $10 each month. Pick a podcast of your choice. Join that podcast each month. Talk about the topic you would like to talk about. Also, make sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and iTunes. The 5-star rating really goes a long way to make sure we are in the ears of more people and get our podcast heard by more people around the world. And then last but not least, follow us on Twitter. I'm at Ricky Widmer. Brandon's at Young_Swan19. Most Valuable Pod is at Most Valuable Podcasts is at Most Valuable Pod. Thank you guys for watching us on YouTube. I want to thank you guys for listening to us on podcast services around the world. It is very hot in here. I can't wait to go out. I'm probably going to buy a bottle of water before I go home from our vending machine in the hall. But thank you guys for watching and listening. And as always, have a good day, everybody.